Bit of a rough and ready video today, sorry about that. Haven't had a lot of time, been trying to do a number of things, and I've had some lovely visitors pop round today, so today's video is just a bit odd, but anyway, never mind all that, because there's two elements to this. One, I've been sorting through some bits and bobs upstairs, trying to think about how I'm going to make space in my house and tidy a few things up. And second, I want to talk to you about a project that I want to take forward during the winter months, when it's cold, it's wet, it's just not conducive for going out terribly far or even staying in the van. So let me make myself comfortable, because I want to show you something interesting I found in some boxes earlier today. Now, some years ago, before I started doing the daily videos that I do here, although I don't do daily videos anymore, but for the 4 years I did daily videos until the summer, and now I'm trying to do 3 slightly longer format videos a week, or at least 2 and 1 less formal one, a bit like this, I suppose. So I'm just pulling it back so that I've got more time to prepare and do stuff. Anyway, before all of that, I was writing some children's books, and I didn't really have much success with it in terms of publishing, but I really enjoyed the process of writing, and I learnt a lot about the English language in doing that. And I've got a number of books that I wrote. Some of them are still in first draft, some of them are in sort of second or third drafts, a couple of them are on Amazon and what have you, but that's not the important thing. I wanted, in order to promote one of them, make an animation film, because I was not having much problem. I thought, well, maybe I could make a stop frame animation. And I tried my hand at drawing, and I was just rubbish at drawing. I struggled and tried and experimented, it just wasn't working. So I thought maybe stop frame animation. And I was just clearing out, as I say earlier, and in this box I'd forgotten that I had made a number of characters out of plasticine, and I had bought myself an armature. Well, actually I've got a couple of armatures here. This is an armature that I have covered for stop frame animation in an aluminium, what do you call this, wire. Okay, there's the body, and then there would be many different heads that would go with the character. And I was experimenting with different types of faces, trying to mould faces and make them look realistic. Here is another armature that I made. This is, so you put the clothes on top. Hang on, here's one I've just discovered. Here's one that I've kind of got relatively fully functional. So I made the costumes. It's actually in a purple like me. I made the costumes. This is an armature that has the joints that move like this, and I thought it would be great to make the characters come to life. There's his head. This is supposed to be a character called Splidge, and Splidge is a crag flinger. This was a children's thing. So a crag was a funny mop-like creature. Here's one. This is a crag, and they get thrown at the crag scoring wall. So it's kind of a cross between a hedgehog and a squirrel, I suppose, in a way. And they rush around. He catches them, throws them at the wall. The story involves getting involved to becoming the royal crag flinger, and then there's a baddie who tries to prevent this all happening, and so on and so on. Anyway, that's kind of irrelevant. And this has got little joints in it. I don't know if the head comes off here, look. And at the back here you've got this armature which is made up of a whole series of joints which actually move. So it was about £100 to buy this particular armature. The other armatures that I showed you were made up of an aluminium, so that it would eventually snap, but you could use these movements for a while. Then you would replace the clothes and what have you, and replace the heads, and all the rest of it, really. Because I was very into that for a while. Here are some more So that's the head I just showed you. That's one of Splidge's heads. There's a whole host in here. I tried different attempts. Here's another little head with eyes and all of that. The other one I saw. Here's one in a brown plasticine, again with eyes and big ears. It was difficult to, I mean, I hadn't worked out how to get the faces to change. It wasn't quite in the way that Wallace and Gromit work. Is it Wallace and Mrs. Simpson? Anyway, that was it. I tried numerous different attempts. Here's another little head, and oops, here's a head that's again a bit too small. I was trying to range them up so that they would fit on the different armatures. Let's see if I can get this one here. So, clearly that's out of proportion, that head. Which ones? I think that's about the only head, I think. No, that one doesn't fit. Anyway, I was experimenting with all of this. I was experimenting with building up crags out of wool. I think this is wool with a bit of PVA, and then I just wanted a little nose sticking out there, and it would, you know, wobble about and be thrown at the wall. I was using coloured pins here for eyes, all sorts of bits and bobs, and the clothes. Here's some trousers that I made out of felt. Of all the felt I've ever felt, I've never felt a piece of felt that felt like this felt. And in the end, I found it very difficult because it was going to be incredibly time-consuming. The idea was that you place your armature. Let me find his head for a second. Within the set that I was going to make, and underneath the set, you'd have very strong magnets, and I did buy some strong magnets, and the magnets magnetize the character so that the character doesn't fall over, and it would hold it. Then you would take the magnet off and, you know, try and get him to walk in a fashion. Of course, the walking, there was so much to learn, it just became absolutely impossible. A lovely project to do, but it would never. I had just had these visions in my head of what it would look like when it was finished, but I just could not realise it, could not make it how it was supposed to be. And I've had this idea for ages. Years ago, I made a plasticine Splidge just as a model, not thinking as to do it as an animated character. But in the end, I gave up. Anyway, so that's that I wanted to show you. And the reason that's in my mind is because, as you know, I've got a quest for England. I'm very passionate about our country. You may well have got that. And I'm trying to think of a way, an interesting way to learn, for me, about our English history, the history of this land. And one of the best ways for me to learn is to read and make notes and then tell somebody. Well, I make videos for a living, so I thought I could share that perhaps once a week or once a fortnight, the process of it. But I don't want to just sit here, as I have done before when I was doing some of these things, and just tell you, basically read you my notes. Whilst that's reasonably interesting, it's not the same as learning it yourself, and I didn't want it to turn into a lecture. So I came up with an idea. I mean, I've got all these books, I'll go through them in a minute. I came up with an idea. Wouldn't it be great to try and utilise, even if they're much, much cruder than these, plasticine, little models, little bits and bobs, cardboard, even some cracked drawings that I could possibly try and mock up, to help illustrate and understand what's going on in our history. And to that end, I've got here a box of goodies, of stuff that I bought, materials that I was going to use for the animation work. So it's ever so dusty, but in here I've got a whole load of something called silk clay, and barely untouched, but also still in their containers and still fresh. Now I believe once you take them out and you model them, it's a bit like plasticine, but it goes hard and then it stays in that shape, so you kind of have to do it. It's a once over thing. But I've got some of those which I could utilise, and another load of smaller stuff. And I nearly got rid of this. I nearly just thought, oh, well, I've got no more use for it because I'll just give it away to kids and things. I've got some acrylic paints, some basic paints for sort of trying to do some drawing, some brushes and various things. I don't know what else is in here. So some modelling. Yes, I was using these modelling tools and things like that. I bought all this stuff trying to do something. More eyes and tapes and things. Wool for hair. It's all in here. And here's this is the aluminium wire. So it's bendy, but you can bend it several times before it will, you know, if you use steel, it will break. But aluminium is all right for that kind of thing. Bandage, cotton wool I've got in here. I thought in here I've got some polystyrene balls which would make great heads. Now I'm sure that there must be some craft shops. I think the Range has a series of things. I mean, even if, and I'm just thinking aloud, even if to help illustrate some of the characters from history, the kings and the queens and the things that happened, even if I can talk reasonably intelligently, but maybe use some of this to make up some very basic little characters to, you know, and put a little crown on their head, draw some simple eyes and things like that. That's what I was thinking. I mean, I'm not trying to do this like a kids program, but just as a way to illustrate the history aspect of it. Anyway, that's all of that. You might have some brilliant ideas or share some ideas, or you may have seen something that somebody else does that might be of some use to help me on my quest. So, let me just have a slurp of coffee because this is hard work. Right, now, sorry, this is a very basic, simple video. I appreciate it's not, you know, put together in my normal style. Books. I've got, as you know, loads of books, loads of books, loads of history books, loads of books on certain periods of history and stuff, and I have tried to read a lot of them. Some of them I haven't. Some of them I only bought just for certain parts of history and not everything. And now I'm trying to piece together the best books to help me understand each little period of history as we go through it. I want to start with the Norman invasion. On October the 14th, it will be the whatever anniversary it is of the Battle of Hastings. And I thought that would be a great place to start. So I've got a number of books which I'm going to use as my references. I don't want to use any of these more modern books, even though some of them may be a little bit more accurate with some of our thinking and stuff. But some of them, and I don't know which, are a bit more woke. There's a lot of revisionalists out there who are trying to rewrite our history, and I don't want to do that. I want to do history as I understood it when I was at school but didn't take it in. I want to do history that for generations we've understood, not the revisionist stuff. So the people I'm referencing are, let's start with this one first of all, Winston Churchill. He wrote A History of the English-Speaking Peoples. And this is an abridged version by Christopher Lee, not the one from the movies, who also put together the Scepter's Isle? Septic, oh, you've got me going thinking of septic now. I don't mean that. Anyway, you know what I mean. So he was prolific. Churchill was prolific on his history writing. Absolutely amazing, and it's so clear, so easy to understand, so well written. It is astounding. He's such an amazing individual. So I want to take his as a reference. I've got the Tales from History by Robert Lacey, which also takes the similar stories but makes them more concise. Sometimes reading the same thing from different authors in different ways really gets into your head the essence of the story, because I don't want to go into massive detail and bore people, but I don't think that a lot of people really know what our history timeline is. Obviously there's some, but I know that my school history was very lacking, and I've got very vague memories about things. I know that Nelson won in the Battle of Trafalgar, but I don't really know why the Battle of Trafalgar came about and more details on it and the history beyond that. So I want to trace history from 1066. This is a brilliant book by Robert Toombs, the English and their history. Fantastic, great tome. I've been reading some of it. Here we go. This is another one which I found really good. Published in the 60s. I can't work out whether it's for very educated children or it's just a general one, but it's brilliantly put together and again simplifies stuff so that a brain like me can understand it. And it uses a lot of contemporary pictures of the period. So the story of the British people in pictures, and it has amazing sets of photographs, well, paintings that were drawn at that time or near the time or, you know, after the time of different things, which helps set an idea of the people and how they were dressed. So I want to use some of that as reference material in this. Another 3 books that I've got that was recommended by my viewers some time ago, I think last year when I was sort of cogitating this project. The first one is, this is very much for children. It's no longer in print or even issued to kids, but I think it's brilliant. Looking at history, and it's a very basic history about the kind of eras, not so much the kings and queens, but the eras and the lifestyles, the Tudor and their kings, sailors, how they travelled. It's enough to give you a very broad stroke that when you're studying an area, sometimes even in kids' language, it can make you think a different way. So that's going to be valuable. And then in more detail, these are actually books for secondary kids that were published in the 70s and 80s, I think. I can't remember. This one is a history of Britain, the Normans, Magna Carta and the Black Death, 1066 to 1485. Carter and Mears. It was a standard thing. Very interesting, very detailed. You know, I'm not trying to be too detailed. I'm just trying to give my audience, if they're interested, a understanding of the English people and our roots, because our roots tell us who we are today. And I think we're almost lost, a lot of people. What we see today with social media and instant gratification is something we forget, that people have fought for this country. They've given their lives to this country. They've been innovative in this country. And there's that sense of me trying to find what England and Englishness is for me is buried in this. This is another one, a continuation of, I think it's pretty much the same, but in early times. So it looks a little bit more about the earlier times of feudalism and the beginning of Christianity and what have you. But I'm going to start with 1066 because after the Battle of Hastings, it was a very important turning point in our history. The trial by jury was introduced by the Normans, common law. Things started to get written down in much more detail. We had the Domesday Book, of course, taxes, and the kings and the queens started to have parliaments and listen to each other. Kings and queens were in succession by birth rather than being voted on by the Witan, which had come about in the Anglo-Saxon period. And so we start to see things, and I think that events in history that happened before are very much repeating themselves now, or that we can learn things by what other people have done. So that's my project, and using some creative bits and bobs, I want to be able to share the stories with you as powerfully as I can, as much as I've learnt, and I may be wrong, and you can correct me and help me on those bits that I get a bit quizzical, and then using the sort of crafty stuff to try and, you know, maybe create a Mott and Bailey castle, or draw the kings and queens and position them in the battles and try and work things out. So it will be a sort of two-way thing if possible. Anyway, that's my video for today. Hope it's been of some interest, and I'm passionate about trying to get this together. If you've enjoyed it, do give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, follow, like. I will get out and about. Oh, by the way, I did get diesel. I have diesel now, so I will be out and about. And don't forget to become a patron and support what I do. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.